lot of testosterone to be that dumb.
There you have it. Thank you, Marty, for potentially bailing me out on any misogynist blowback on that one. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Zach Selwyn, lead singer of Zachariah and the Lobos Riders and Country Linen. You are listening and watching the All Over the Place podcast where the fun sanity never ends. You know what it is, y'all.
Hello and welcome back to All Over the Place. I am your host, Eric Porvoznik, and we're just jumping right into it, folks. Jumping right in. I'm going to bring in Mr. Jim Culver. Jim, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Well, looking at my face, obviously I was umping today. I'm a little redder than I thought I was. So, yeah, other than that, I'm fantastic. And also Marty Zamora. Hello, Mr. Martine.
Hello, hello.
So, as you can see, and Marty, I'm glad you're wearing that shirt. Folks, today we are going to be doing a very special Father's Day edition of All Over the Place. We got a Threefer coming. But before we get to that, I wanted to thank everyone. I don't care if I sound like a broken record. We are growing every week. More episodes are being viewed. More people are subscribing. More people are sharing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so eternally grateful for all that as we continue to thrive and monetize in 2025. Yeah, I almost said 25. No, we're not there yet. If we're around at 25, I'll be pretty happy. But
season 500 is coming your way, baby.
Yes, indeed. And also, I wanted to throw a shout out to Mr. Danny Saber. You can see if you're watching, if you're an All Over the Place subscriber, you've already seen the promo that I've got out as Danny's got some special stuff coming. And be sure to go to bosssonics.com to pick up this awesome Michael Hutchins shirt and get your bundle pack with the, let me just do it, a little twist of the camera here. The old picture disc there. You can still get a bundle pack on that from Danny and the folks over there at bosssonics.com. And another huge announcement, a former guest on our show, and he'll be coming back later this year. We just got to find that he's got a huge busy schedule. But Dan Zalesko, the promoter, Dan Zalesko, is going to be coming back here to All Over the Place. And before he does, though, we have gotten permission, the blessing that Dan Zalesko Presents is we are going to be tagging them on all of our shows. And we're growing in 2025, and we thank the team over at Dan Zalesko Presents, and certainly Dan Zalesko, concert promoter extraordinaire, for just having a little symbiosis here with All Over the Place. As you can see on Marty's T-shirt, a loving tribute to his father Pablo, and we're gonna just jump right in. I'm gonna kick it over to you, Marty, for the top 3 of our favorite TV dads, and we're then going to do one movie father. So Marty, we're gonna kick it to you first and let us know who your bronze or your number 3, or however you want to define, kicking off the show.
All right. Well, for my third pick on the favorite, I was gonna go best dad, but I think it's gonna be favorite. Just ones I liked. May not have been the best dad, but loved watching him, and that is Mr. Fred Sanford. Sanford and Son was one of my favorite shows growing up. And yes, I realize he was not the perfect dad, but he's the dad a lot of us knew. Just a little grumpy, a little dopey, but you respected him and he looked out for you. And just, I love that guy. And, he called his son a dummy every day, but you could tell he loved him, and they had a cool, they ran a business together and they had a cool relationship. Fred Sanford's one of the funniest guys ever. And I just love that show. It's just, it seemed to me at the time, I didn't really see it as so much of a black show as like more of a, I don't know, multicultural show, kind of poking fun at kind of everybody, which is kind of what you should do. Is everything's funny or nothing's funny. So I just love the show, and he's one of my favorite comics as well as comedic actors. He's just brilliant, just so funny. Some of my favorite bits, when he would get mad and he was going to fight, the favorite one of all that trumps it all was looking through the drawer with the glasses. No, and it's a dumb gag, but it got me every time, especially as a kid.
Red Fox, I loved it. And yep, no doubt about it. Great call.
Yep, good choice. And yeah, it really wasn't a quote unquote black show, because back then our entertainment wasn't really segregated. They made shows for everybody, and there was something that everybody could enjoy in a show like that. You know, it didn't really matter what somebody looked like or what have you. It was just entertainment and relatability, and yeah, there's definitely Sanford. There's like you said, everybody knows somebody like Sanford, whether it's a dad, a grandpa, an uncle, or whoever. But anybody can relate to that personality in their family. So yeah,
for sure. And wasn't even going to mention this, but to the black show thing, we're all familiar. There were black shows. There were shows that were predominantly black characters or a black family or whatever, and there was white ones. And even for me, there was some Hispanic ones in there, and we were aware that it was mostly black or mostly white, but nobody really gave a shit. Nobody cared. That happened to be who it was about, and it wasn't necessarily look how black this show is, look how white this show is. It was just funny, and it happened to be set in that culture, and nobody cared. And it'd be good to see that come back. I'll say that.
As someone who grew up on the Jeffersons, I couldn't agree more.
There you go.
As someone who grew up with Chico and the Man and Welcome Back, Kotter, same concept. It just
sure. And
Welcome Back, Kotter, you had every segment within the Sweat Hog. So yeah, it was the 70s, folks. It was a great time. Cannot be stated enough. So from our team who grew up in the 70s to our team member who was born right at the end of the 70s, Jim, we're going to kick it over to you.
All right. Well, for my number 3, I'm going to go with Hal. I don't think his last name was ever given on the show, but the dad from Malcolm in the Middle, played by, of course, Bryan Cranston, Walter White, playing probably the most un-Walter White-like character you could have, just showing kind of range that guy has. But character I always really loved on that show. He was... he definitely was not the kind of traditional, grumpy masculine dad, but he was, he was a guy who was not meek, but just kind of, constantly beaten down and flummoxed by life. Didn't really know what was going on half the time, kind of befuddled. We all kind of know how that feels. And his wife definitely wore the pants. If you watch the show for more than 5 minutes, you know that. But he was always, a great loving dad, hardworking guy, cheerful, just a guy trying to kind of find something, get some good things out of his life. He always loved his kids. And even though his sons were all huge troublemakers, they were always a source of fun for him. A lot of times he would go with his sons and do stuff behind the mom's back, just to get some fun out of his life. Same. And of course, which would drive her insane, because the mom character on that show was hilarious. That she was always on her very last nerve for basically the entire show, just ready to snap.
Yeah, she lived on that last nerve.
Yeah, exactly. And but a lot of times he would just be the fun dad, as much as a goofy guy like him could be. Never cool, but still found a way to be the fun dad and have some good times and bond with his kids. Never really won at life, kind of like a cheerier Al Bundy. He never really won at life, but he just found a way to live his life and enjoy his life and be good to his family. So always loved that character. That's my pick.
And I love you. I love you brought up the fact that he got into the mischief as well, because he.
Yep.
I think it's pretty common knowledge that men are nothing but children in grown-up bodies. And
yes,
you got to be responsible to make the wife happier than usual. But you want to jump in with the kids, you have to.
Yeah, he was definitely kind of a man-child, albeit a fairly responsible one. One of my favorite parts of the show is when he gets a wood chipper to get rid of some trees at his house, and one of the sons, I think he throws in a lunchbox or something just to watch it get destroyed. And at first he starts to get mad, and then he goes, "Actually, that was kind of cool. What else you got?" And then you just get him
that was
just having a great time. it just that just encapsulates the character. Is the guy was just trying to have some fun with his crazy life. So
excellent call. Well, for my number 3, I'm going to go with one of my favorite shows from the 80s, and that would be Family Ties. Stephen Keaton, the patriarch on Family Ties, and just couldn't be any further from me or any dads that I knew, but just that ultra liberal, hippie, drippy. But the fact that he could have a different opinion with the who wound up being the star of the show, Alex P. Keaton, Michael J. Fox, and just completely different opinions, those two, and they would clash, but he would always just they could agree to disagree, which was we brought up on our political shows what was a fashion of the time, and it was just, and he loved it. He was very protective of his daughters, and just understand. And another guy, much like Hal on Malcolm in the Middle, he wanted to get in on the fun too. He liked to let loose and just just be the fun dad and or be a kid, really.
Yep, and I liked how that show kind of flipped the stereotypes on its head. Instead of it, the conservative dad and the grumpy conservative dad and the hippie kids, like Archie Bunker, it was kind of flipped it around. So you had the hippie dad trying to make sense out of his Reagan loving son, and that was, you never really had that dynamic before that show, and so it was fun to see that the Reaganites were the cool kids in the 80s, and that was the rare show that reflected that reality. And they handled that dynamic really well. Both characters, neither character was really a caricature. They were both just people that had different opinions, and at the end of the day, they loved each other anyway.
And of course, the dynamic that he had once Mallory brought Nick home into the mix, the interplay between Steven and Nick, just priceless. All right, so Marty, we're going to go back to you for your silver pick.
All right. Well, I am going to pivot. You know what? I'll just do a really nice honorable mention for this guy. I'm going to go with the same guy that Jim had, but not the same guy. Walter White. Man, if you've ever been in a situation where you just thought like, I don't have an alternative. There's no other plan, but I got to do what I got to do. And that epitomized it. And it wasn't that he was he wanted to have money for his family when he was gone. But also, like, even if he didn't go away, he was going to have a ton of medical bills if he didn't die right away. So he was just looking out for his family. Obviously, over seasons, it turned to him really liking being that character. But the amount of shit he went through to keep his family in the dark, to keep the money coming in till the very end, because he thought he was going to die. He thought, it's going straight down. There's no and the stuff he was willing to put himself through, and the danger not only from the law but from all these crazy outside sources. It really wasn't all the show was about, but it was a big factor for me that this guy is doing anything he can do for his family. It didn't matter what it was. He was going to do it, and he was going to do everything he could to protect them from it. So they didn't know about it. They couldn't be implicated in any way on either side of the law. And man, what a guy. He went through hell, especially in the early part of the show, the early seasons. Went through hell, just doing what he thought he had to do. And man, I mean, that's right up there for me with the best dad. Even though he was sort of an anti-hero, he did what he had to do. And I think, anybody who has people they love, they can relate.
I kind of go back and forth on that character, because he definitely started out wanting to provide for his family, but that kind of opened a door for him where he made so many horrible choices and did so many things that were really bad for his family to by the end, they hated his guts.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you completely understand why he did the things he did, but I feel like at some point he didn't really care that much about them. He told himself.
Well, eventually, he got high on the power. He got high on, being Walter White, being Heisenberg. Like I think anybody would be, you might fall into that, no matter how good a guy you are. And but originally, this all started out with, I got to be the dad, and I got to do what I got to do, and then
it did, yeah.
As always, it creeps in, and it crept in on him in a really harsh way.
Yeah, really. And that's why it bothered me, because I feel like, to be a father, you have to be a good dad when it matters. And I feel like when it really mattered, he was not he did not put his family first at all.
The character, for sure.
I will say though, but that at the end of the show, he definitely makes an about face and kind of comes to understand his priorities again. He's able to make some kind of final gestures toward his family that redeem him to some degree, at least. But I just have a hard time putting him in that good dad category, because of looking at the whole totality of the show. I don't know. I think it's a brilliant show about kind of starting from a good place and wanting to take care of your family, but then going down this horrible, dark, selfish path. But it's a brilliant show in that respect. But
right. Well, and it kind of gives you a little picture of what happens when you cross the line, even with good intentions. It can go really bad. And he's probably one of the only guys that got hooked on meth without doing meth. I think he was hooked on what meth provided him. He was a meth addict without ever doing meth.
That's a good way to put it. Absolutely. Yeah, I do love that speech that Gus gives him about being a father. I mean, he says a man, but he means a father is you provide, whether it's appreciated or what have you. It's your job. And for whatever his intentions for that, I feel like that's something that people need to hear. And kind of went to the core of the character, was he felt like it was his job to provide, whether he was doing the right thing or not. So I feel like we could do a whole show like debating the ethics of that character, or whether he was a good father.
An idea.
Yeah, but great character though, for sure.
It sounds like some lyrics from some guy that I know seem appropriate here. He may be a father, but he sure ain't a dad.
Oh,
yeah. Well, three guesses who wrote that, but we'll let everyone not ponder who wrote those lines as we go to Jim for his number 2 pick.
My number 2. So for my number 3, I picked somebody who was kind of the opposite of the traditional American dad, and for my number 2. I'm going the other way and picking a character that basically is the embodiment of that, to me at least, and that would be Hank Hill from King of the Hill. Definitely a stereotype, the traditional suburban dad from small town Texas, and who embraces that fully. Absolutely loves being what he is, and lives for that, and in a comedic way, obviously, but loves his family. And even though he never will understand his son, his mantra is the boy ain't right, but because his kid's just such a goofball that he doesn't get it, but yeah, brilliant character. I always loved Hank Hill. I think he's hilarious. Just that kind of old-fashioned guy that just wakes up in the morning and shakes his fist at the world and doesn't have a clue what's going on half the time with the modern age, but just lives in his little world and wants to be left alone to raise his family and work for them and provide and love his family and friends. And but yeah, great character. Love that show. It's such a comfort watch. It's a great cozy show that I've always loved. And yeah, Hank is a great character, even though he's literally a cartoon, but figuratively a cartoon as well, kind of a caricature. But he's such just a straightforward, honest guy about what he believes in and what matters to him. That he's always fun to watch on screen.
Yeah. He had great values, but a pretty narrow view on life, but really good values in that narrow lane.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
One of the best lines ever. A D in English, but Bobby, you speak English. So good.
Yeah, and I couldn't figure out how he never was able to get Bobby. And you're right, Bobby was the artsy fartsy goofball. But considering Hank's closest friends, who were 3 various ends of spectrums as well in the not so normal department. figure Bobby would have fit right in. But what are your thoughts, Jim? Because I've been rewatching King of the Hill in light of the announcement that came out in the last couple of weeks. What are your thoughts on King of the Hill Redux coming up?
I'm not sure. I have a lot of faith in Mike Judge because he brought back Beavis and Butthead and actually managed to pull that off. The new movie he put out was hilarious, and had some great politically incorrect moments, just like the original show did. So I think that as long as he has creative control over it, I think it's going to be a good show. He really loves those characters. He doesn't like Hollywood telling him what to do or how to write his characters, as is evident from, if you know, his professional life and all the spats he's had with Fox and other executives about his movies and shows. He really likes to do things his way. And so I think he's probably... What's that?
For good reason.
For good reason. Yeah, exactly. So I think he's going to deliver a decent show. I don't know what the studio is going to do to it or how they might cut it up and make some and fix it like they love to do. But I think it's going to be at least a halfway decent show. I'm definitely looking forward to checking it out.
Well, hopefully.
I hope it gets a better shake than what happened with his production of The Good Family, which has already gotten some love on this show. For
sure, yeah. And yeah, going back to what you said about Bobby and him being so different, I think honestly Bobby just takes after his mom, and he's kind of in a boy kind of way.
Yeah.
His mom always has delusions of grandeur about what a brilliant creative person she is, and I think he inherited some of that from her. But I don't know. I think he takes after her a little bit, and I think sometimes people just develop on their own, and you just kind of got to deal with that. But my favorite line I think from that show is, "Bobby, if you weren't my son, I'd hug you."
That's a really great one.
Well, we're going to skip on up to my number 2, and this was hard, as you can see in the collage behind us, and it'll be our splash page as well for this show. There's so many awesome TV dads, and I'm going to do a quick pivot from sitcoms to go with one of the few hour-long serial comic shows out there, and I'm going to take Coach Eric Taylor from Friday Night Lights, played by Kyle Chandler, and I think I looked at him more as a great husband, like the husband-wife dynamic on the show. I thought was phenomenal, but as a dad, he was just someone he's a football coach, and he has a daughter, and a daughter who he shaped into like knowing football as well as he did, and which I'm not saying can't be done. It's just that the frustrations of it. Football is a pretty male-dominated thing. I think Marty, you're a football expert. You'd agree on that one, yeah?
Yeah, you got to have a lot of testosterone to be that dumb.
There you have it. Thank you, Marty, for potentially bailing me out on any misogynist blowback on that one. Thank you. So, but across, I think 5 seasons, but he was the rock at the center of his family, and they had a baby during the course of the show, which was unusual for consider. But with the team going away from the team, coming back to the team, splintering a team that's splintered in the community, and supporting his wife as well, and supporting his daughter through all of the craziness. How they did not just let Julie drive off into the sunset one day, I don't know. But Kyle, he just that unconditional love. And just a perfect dynamic for a football coach, father, and husband. Love Friday Night Lights, and Kyle Chandler as Coach Taylor was the biggest part of that.
Yeah, really good, bordering on great, excellent show, really great dad.
And only one nomination. I'm not sure if he won the Emmy, but only one nomination.
Yeah, that shit's overrated.
No. The Emmys have been getting it wrong for a very long time. Let's not go down that path.
Yeah, I don't.
But yeah, absolutely solid character, and not just a dad to his own kids, but really a dad to like a lot of coaches. He's a dad to all of his players too, in some ways, and in more of a leadership role. But that he was a really important role model with all those players, and that was a big part of who he is. So I really like that character, and really played as kind of a natural leader that the town needed.
And as we brought up earlier, with black, white, Hispanic, didn't matter. And this is one of the shows, one of the few shows in the 21st century that tackled all of that. And he didn't care. He just cared about, was this a good person? Was this a good player? How do I shape this person, regardless of his color or ethnicity, into a great man and a great football player?
Yeah.
Yep.
Really good choice.
And right now, folks, I want to remind you that you are watching All Over the Place, where the fun sanity never ends. We are doing our Threefer for Father's Day, and it's top 3 fathers, TV fathers, and we're going to do 1 movie father. But very quickly, I'm going to do a pop quiz to my 2 co-hosts. We're going to do a quick, who is a worse TV dad? And it's strange, coincidentally enough, it's from 2 FX shows, and I hope both of you guys have watched both shows. Who is the worst TV father, Clay from Sons of Anarchy, or Arlo Givens on Justified?
Oof. Who's the worst? Ooh, that's a tough one. That is tough, and that's excellent. I think Arlo's
5 people on this show. Okay, I'll just jump in quickly on this one and just say that the fact that Clay, of course, it's Shakespearean, Claudius, killed Jax's dad. So that in and of itself, in the Hamlet fashion, I would make him worse. But Arlo was such a damn scumbag.
Yeah, I would say Arlo was all bad all the time, where Clay had a little window there where he was a good dad, helping raise Jax and teaching him about MC life and family and all that kind of crap, even though it was under a veil of absolute dastardly.
Sure.
He was a bad dude, very bad. So I think, worse, because he actually killed the dad to get in there. That was
all right. Jim, to you.
I regret to admit I have not seen Sons of Anarchy, but I'm going to have to go with Arlo, because I couldn't imagine anybody being a worse dad than him, and if they are, I don't want to meet him. So I'm going to have to go there.
Yeah, he's pretty bad. Well, I would say Arlo is worse if you take out the murdered the dad to take his place. I think Arlo is worse because he's just all bad all the time. Doesn't care at all about his son or anybody else. Just being a dickhead. And like I said, Clay had his moments of.
And let's not forget that Arlo thought he was going to be shooting Raylan at one point. So
fine with it. He was fine with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to give props to Raymond J. Barry for that actor was so good at playing a scumbag like that, and he's played nice guys too. But man, that playing a character like Arlo that he can sink his teeth into, he's so good in that.
Yeah,
and what an absolute shit dad. If the way you revolt against your dad is by joining law enforcement, then it's a pretty crappy dad. And Arlo definitely fits the bill.
The wrong son died.
Yeah, you gotta really, really hate what your dad's about to go that far in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
All right, folks. There are our quick pop quiz, our lightning-ish round on a worse TV dad. But now we're going to go back to Marty for his number 1 pick, or actually any honorable mentions he might have, because God knows there's enough in this list.
Well, I may have 15 or 16 honorable mentions, but a few that jumped out. Keaton is mentioned. It's funny. He looked at that time. My stepdad looked a lot like him, and him and my mom were kind of hippie-ish, living the pot smoking hippie life, but also going to work and being productive members. But they were hippies. Maybe not a great dad, hard to say, but Archie Bunker, love that guy. There's so many, Red Foreman and Howard Cunningham. Anyway, so one last one that I almost slid in there for Walter White, and that is Eugene Levy. Schitt's Creek was a brilliant show, and Johnny Rose just so. Anyway, if anyone's seen the show, they know what I'm not saying. He was just so good, and all the chaos in a completely different environment. That guy managed to still be himself and still, go through life the way he, as his own self. He didn't turn into he didn't Walter White it. He just sort of bounced along in his new terrible, circumstances. Anyway, great. In case someone picked him, I'm going to shut up. Number one for me, I grew up on the guy, even though the show's a little before my time, not much, I have to admit, Mike Brady. Mike Brady, come on, dude. That guy gave out some of the best convoluted advice ever. Some of it was really good advice, but some of it was just, you did a bad thing, but you owned up to it, and then but he would always have these cool lessons, these, Bobby, those kind of things. And I remember one of them, Peter. He wrote he was the columnist for a school paper, and he wrote some really nice, glowing stuff about a teacher to try and get a better grade. And it was even way back then, he gave him the speech about responsibility of the press and all that. And I thought, wow, that's interesting that doesn't exist anymore. I don't. Anyway, I just thought, man, this guy, and he agreed. He must have really loved that woman, because he agreed to take all that on, those annoying girls, his little jerk off boys. Like, he had a whole big mess of things to do, and having a housekeeper wasn't enough. Like, let's face it, he paid for all of it too. That guy had a lot of pressure on his shoulder, and he still seemed very calm and even keeled. He never got upset. He never, and he was the first TV dad to get to lay in the bed with his wife. Didn't see that before.
Good. Hang on a second. Hang on, Marty. We're going to back this up. Marty, why don't you go ahead and tell us about that again?
Do I need to put the clap?
Post facto awesomeness from Marty. Great call, my friend. I love it.
Well, yeah. So Mike Brady, the first dad or husband or whatever to lay right in the bed with his wife and go to bed. We knew what they were doing. None of that Ricky Ricardo shit, sleeping in two beds. It was the first show to ever show the parents, or a married couple, or any couple for that matter, in bed together. That was some steamy stuff for a family show. But good on Mike, He worked hard to become an architect, and damn it, he deserved to have a warm body next to him.
And let's not forget Alice. He was able to pay for a maid as well, a live-in maid.
Yeah. Well, he designed that house so that she could have a room right next to where she worked. I thought that was messed up. Her bedroom, the door opened into the kitchen. What the hell? That's hard.
That Brady magic. Now we're going to do a little trivia with Eric / trivia with Jim. Jim, do you know what famous and Academy Award-winning actor almost got the part of Mike Brady?
I can't say I do, because that show was a little before my time, even though I watched it in reruns.
Dick Sargent.
Is it
Dick York?
Dick York. Dick Sargent. Sergeant York. Anyway.
That would be Gene Hackman was one of the final guys up for
Mike
Brady.
Wow. Didn't know that.
I'm picturing that in my head. That would be interesting.
That would be. Well, here's the Gene Hackman. I'm toasting with Long Drink, brought to you by The Finish.
I would absolutely have watched an R-rated version of that show with Gene Hackman as the dad, just screaming at him like
Damn it, Bobby! I said no playing ball in the goddamn house.
Few kids thrown down those stairs.
Gene Hackman did not play a calm father. I don't think he was capable. Probably a nice guy in real life, but every dad he played scared the shit out of me.
All right. Well, on that note, Jim, let's find somebody who is not scary to you as a TV dad. Who is your first off, who are some of your multiple honorable mentions, as we're all going to have, and who's your number one TV dad?
All right, and well, as always, I'm going to preemptively apologize if I step on anyone's toes with these picks, but for my honorable mentions, I'm going to start with Bob Belcher from Bob's Burgers, a guy who lives in an insane world where he owns the worst burger joint in New York and has a completely batshit crazy family, but he loves them and he gets up every morning and provides for them and has a healthy amount of sarcasm and one-liners to deal with the insanity in his family. And yeah, a hilarious, great show and a great character. Jack Arnold, the dad from Wonder Years, played by the great Dan Lauria. Another show I grew up on and absolutely loved. I liked that the character was never really played in a sentimental way. He was just a tough, hardworking guy. He never coddled his kids. He was not affectionate. He just showed up and provided for them and gave them the tough love they needed. And he was kind of that old-fashioned dad, but he was a good dad for what he was and gave his kids what they needed. A classic one, but Ward Cleaver from Leave It to Beaver. Always liked him as kind of the rock in his family and always a source of great wisdom, even when his kids were driving him crazy. And because I'm a huge nerd, I got to mention The Mandalorian. The entire show revolved around a intergalactic bounty hunter who, in the first episode, falls in love with a baby alien and decides.
Grogu we're counting as his kid, huh? Okay.
Oh, I think so. I think so. I think you have to say, you know what, I'm gonna throw my entire life upside down. Let the universe hunt me down and ruin my life in the order for this baby because damn it, I'm not going to let anything happen to it. And that is cool. I like that. To me, that is the essence of fatherhood, is protection above all else. And he lived by that and didn't care what happened to him. I mean, he obviously fought for his life, but he was willing to protect that baby come hell or high water. And
it came.
And yeah, it did. And I'm going to say only in the first 2 seasons of that show because no other seasons exist of that show.
Proof.
Yeah. And yeah. So yeah, that's my nerd coming out. But all right. So for my number one though, I have to go with, because I love this show growing up and it was probably my favorite TV dad for my generation. And that was Dr. Jason Seaver from Growing Pains. Just a great character played by the late Alan Thicke, R.I.P. He was definitely part of that wave of sensitive dads in the 80s on TV. But he had 3 kids who were all varying degrees of difficult. And he ran a therapy practice out of his house. So he was kind of that sensitive, middle class dad, but just a great character, just a wonderful dad. Took so much crap from his kids, but always was there for them. Sometimes he had to drop the sensitive act and put on his angry dad voice to and be the disciplinarian for his kids, and he was willing to do that too. He wasn't just Mr. Nice sensitive guy. He had all those facets to his personality when he was whatever he needed to be as a dad. But overall, he was an extremely nice, good person. Always respected his kids and loved his kids. But expected them to behave themselves too, and just kind of a generally nice guy, somebody you'd want to get to know in your own life, definitely in that mold of Mr. Rogers type people. So just a good decent guy and a hardworking guy and a good father, and just a character I was really admired as a kid. It's kind of the kind of father I'd want to be. So,
yeah, he was awesome. And didn't he? I think the premise was that he moved his practice home, right, so that he could be there with his kids. Right? He could.
Right. Yeah. She did. Yeah, so that was the idea. He's not quite a stay-at-home dad. He was a working dad, but he would always make sure that he could be there for his kids too.
Yeah, and maybe the best, coolest hair of any TV dad from that era.
Right?
He had a cool coif of some, lion's mane action going on there.
Alan Thicke, respect the hair.
Indeed, thick is right. He kept that quite nice and thick his whole life, the bastard.
Thick with an E. That's how badass that hair was.
That's right.
Yes. Great call. And of course, he put up with Mike's friend.
Sure.
Played by whose son in real life?
Uh-oh.
You used to know this.
Have I stumped you twice tonight, Jim?
I didn't take my smart pills today. What can I say?
Chekhov, Walter Koenig from that was his son.
Wow.
He also put up with a young Leonardo DiCaprio, who hadn't quite gotten his range down, and basically was just a snotty kid for the whole show. But
and I like the fact that both of us are our top three dads. Your number one, my number three. They added the annoying extra child during the course of the show, and neither of us brought them up until me doing it now.
Hey, my guy had an annoying child that everybody hated. Oliver.
Oh, you got it. The beginning of it all. Good point, Marty. Excellent.
He started the useless extra kid to try and keep the ratings going.
Yep.
Trend.
And it went so badly that they said, we're going to keep doing that for decades after, because everybody loved that on the Brady Bunch, right?
Ted McGinley is often referred to as the patron saint of jumping the shark. I would go so far as to say cousin Oliver should be the patron saint of jumping the shark.
I think maybe so.
We're on to
predates Happy Days.
And I just believe we found our trailer number one for the show.
Who is the true jumping the shark person from the 80s? That's the question.
Oh, from the 80s? I think, oh boy, it's
coming to a Threefer near you.
For now, though, we're going to go to my honorable mentions before I hit my number one. I want to give some love to Phil Drummond, played by Conrad Bain on Different Strokes. And also James Evans Sr., unceremoniously written out of the show, played by John Amos on Good Times. Dr. Cliff Huxtable. I realize that Bill Cosby's name has rightfully gotten dragged through the mud. Scumbaggery, what extraordinary. But we forget the great comedy that guy gave us, the great philanthropy that guy gave us. And Dr. Cliff Huxtable was a phenomenal role model for kids of any color, but especially black kids, seeing a successful doctor father and a lawyer mother on the Cosby Show. And I got to give some love to TV dad, Dr. Cliff Huxtable, especially teaching his son Theo the value of $1. That scene will live forever. It's just great fathering. Yeah. And my final honorable mention, I got to give some love to John Astin as the patriarch of the Addams family as Gomez Addams.
Yeah.
Which dovetails nicely into my number one, the ultimate goofball, lovable, adorable. That would be Phil Dunphy as played by Ty Burrell on Modern Family. I cannot get enough of that character. And he just wants what's best, and he's having fun doing. He's the eternal kid, which probably says a lot about me, and never being a father myself. But just the way he adores his wife, he adores his kids. He wants so desperately to be loved by his father-in-law, and maybe desperately do some not so nice things to his father-in-law's second wife. But loves magic, as I learned in the great movie Eddie and the Cruisers, the world needs dreamers, Doc. The world needs dreamers. And Phil Dunphy, the ultimate dreamer. Love Modern Family, and he's my number one reason why in a show with three fathers. And I think Phil's the one who rises to the top every time.
Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah, definitely a lovable goofball. And that show probably saved Ty Burrell from becoming typecast because, man, on Dawn of the Dead remake, he played an asshole so well. I was like, I remember seeing that and thinking, this guy's gonna play assholes in everything for the rest of his career. You know, he's going to be like the guy who was the principal in the Breakfast Club and just like the douchebag and everything after that. But yeah, he was so good as Phil Dunphy that it completely changed his career trajectory. But yeah, he plays that lovable goofball so well. It's like he's almost a brilliant dad. Like if he could just figure stuff out a little bit better, but he doesn't quite make that last step, which is something I think a lot of us dads can relate to.
And I don't know if I said it well a little bit earlier, but the ultimate believer in all of his children and the pride he takes in the separate, very separate gifts that all three of his kids have.
Absolutely.
Yep, good choice.
And Jim, those acting skills honed at a certain university in the middle of Pennsylvania. I don't know, I'm not sure which one, but there you have it. Ty Burrell, much love. Phil Dunphy. And now we're going to pivot over to our favorite movie dads. This is a +1. And Marty, we're going to kick it over to you. And it's so nice that you popped up in the center there with the changing of the landscape here.
All right. So I have just one honorable mention, and only because I couldn't decide between the two. They couldn't be more different, and I'm still wavering. But I'm gonna go with my honorable mention is Don Vito Corleone. Just it wasn't. He was a good dad by way of good example on what to do, because Michael wouldn't have been Michael without Don Vito.
Yeah.
As we saw, you know, he had another son that may or may not have been a hothead and didn't really listen to Pop's advice, but it did sink in, and we saw how far he took that. I just thought he was cool. He was very quiet. Everybody knows him. Everybody. That's a character anybody can like, from a movie that, you know, epic movie, great movie. Anyway, my number one, and I might be stepping on your guys' tootsies here, but because it's an easy one, and it was the first one I thought of, Clark motherfucking Griswold. To me, that is the dad of movie dads. He is always trying. The poor guy is always trying to do the thing for his family and make things great, whether it's vacation or Christmas or whatever. Just trying to, you know, like, come on, guys, this is going to be wonderful. He's Mr. Positive, and just, you know, the bird just keeps shitting on him. And just in the end, you know, and each movie has its own little twist, but, you know, he ends up being a good guy anyway, and he ends up, through all the terrible shit that happens, he just keeps a stiff upper lip, and only, you know, very rarely, and he finally fucking snaps. But so good with all that cast of people, especially in Christmas Vacation, was just a whole cast of just crazy people in his life. And yet he remains Clark. He remains the guy. He just awesome. Love him in all of them. Some were better than others, but he was always just excellent. And I'm not even a massive Chevy Chase fan, but man, he knocked it out of the park with Clark Griswold. And that's my dude.
And much props to a man who somehow fathered not just a son and a daughter, but 4 separate sons and daughters, all using the same name across 4 movies.
Yes.
That's some mighty sperm, Clark.
By the way, that is a great gag in a movie series. It is a great gag to do.
Yep.
You're playing the kids. You get cast. You think, man, if they do a sequel, you know, in this one, if you're one of the kids, you're not coming back. Such a good gag.
Yeah,
and don't mention it.
Dick Sargent, Dick York, that one across 4 movies. Do that for me.
Yep, and it's never addressed, which is what makes it so great.
Yep. Yeah, as a kid, I didn't really get Clark Griswold. I why is this guy so goofy and so weird and like always so over the top? It was like, you know, he was just he came off as kind of like a cartoon character to me. But as a dad and an adult, I totally get him now. Like, he just wants to make his family happy. He wants to make everybody happy, give them a good time, and he just tries a little too hard, and everything he tries to do just blows up in his face. And he just like you say, he tries to put on a good face through it all while he's dying inside. and it makes the character makes perfect sense to me nowadays. But yeah, because
way more relatable.
Every dad's been there. Everybody gets it. It's just part of the job. So, yeah, great choice.
Nice. I agree. All right. Well, Jim, over to you for honorable mention or mentions and your number one movie dad.
Okay. Honorable mentions. So I'm going to start with Arthur Weasley from the Harry Potter movies. A good example of a guy who's not actually a dad, but you can take a kid in who needs it and be the dad for them, and give them what they need. And that's what Arthur Weasley was. For a kid for Harry Potter, a kid who grew up without a dad, with horrible parental figures in his life who treated him like dirt. Arthur Weasley modeled for him what a good dad should be, and that clearly sunk in with him, and it was something he carried into his adult life. So great character, and just a nice, fun-loving guy in a universe full of not very nice characters for the most part. Arthur Weasley was just a nice, fun-loving guy who loved his family and just wanted everybody to be happy. So. Gil, played by Steve Martin in Parenthood, one of my favorite movie dads. Again, just a guy who really wants his kids to be happy and tries a little too hard, but just cares deeply about them and just does whatever it takes for his family. Fun fact about Steve Martin: so certainly in my generation, he was kind of one of those America's Dad guys from movies like Parenthood and Cheaper by the Dozen, Father of the Bride. But he actually didn't become a father until he was almost 70 years old in the early 2000s. So good acting for a guy who was not a dad for most of his life. He definitely knew how to convey that kind of paternal instinct. But anyway, I'm gonna add also Brad Whitaker, played by Will Ferrell in Daddy's Home.
Yes, nice.
Really fun character. Just a guy who absolutely is in love with the idea of being a dad, even though he's a stepdad. It's like his main ambition in life, but he's just such a beta male that once he's not the only dad there when Mark Wahlberg shows up and just kind of sweeps the kids right out from under him, but not as caring, and so there's still a hole there that he needs to fill, because he just is such a good, loving person. So, and finally, my last honorable mention is Brian Mills from Taken, played by Liam Neeson. Kind of the embodiment of the protector a dad. Just a guy who's willing to do anything for his kids, or his daughter rather. He's willing to do anything for her, and just literally anything, including murder a lot of people. But I think something nobody talks about that movie is the end. And after he's just gone through hell and killed half the population of Paris to get his daughter back. He's so selfless at the end. Like, he doesn't play the "I told you so" with all the people that said everything was going to be fine with his daughter running off to Europe by herself. He doesn't bask in his own glory as a badass or anything. He just goes right back to being a doting dad and helping his daughter achieve her dreams in a safe way, and just completely selfless. He doesn't try to take any credit for himself or anything, puff himself up. He just goes right back to loving his daughter after it's over. And I love that character. So anyway, for my pick, though, I have to go with Chris Gardner, played by Will Smith in The Pursuit of Happiness. Probably my all-time favorite movie dad. Love the character, obviously based on a real person, but like with all movies based on real life, Hollywood took a few liberties. But generally, the core of it is true. It's about this guy who is really down on his luck, having a single dad, having hard times, and worked his way up to being a stockbroker. Great movie, and just the determination in Chris to just say, I'm going to make something of myself. I'm going to provide for my kid. I'm going to give him a better life than I had. It just drives him through this really difficult period in his life where he's trying to build something up from nothing,
Yeah.
and how difficult that is. And if he was just doing it for himself, that'd be one thing. But because he has this kid with him that he's trying to give a better life to, you just cheer for him every step of the way. Every little victory, and you cheer for, and every little setback, you kind of wince at, because you understand what's driving him and how important it is to be a good dad to his son and not let him down. So, great character and a great movie. So that's my pick.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. I only saw it once, but excellent.
Yeah, same. It hit, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, much like Jim, I have a real life guy as one of my only honorable mention. Much like Marty, I have only one honorable mention, and it couldn't be any more different than my number one pick. My honorable mention will go to Pete Postlethwaite, playing Patrick Giuseppe Conlon in The Name of the Father. A guy who went to jail, went to prison, went through scores of bullshit by the British government because he believed his son was telling the truth. And that's fatherhood. Just doing everything you can for your kid. But that's my honorable mention. And my number one, much like Marty, a movie written by John Hughes. And I'm going to go with Michael Keaton as Jack Butler in Mr. Mom. Doing everything he can, getting laid off, and has to become, let his wife go off and be the main breadwinner in the family as he navigates not knowing jack shit about what's going on in the house, but figuring it out and sucking up his pride and being Mr. Mom, being that ultimate dad, and avoiding any extramarital affairs.
Yes. Good on him, because that kind of thing can be tempting for a guy who's feeling, low about himself. He got laid off. My wife's doing it. Yeah, easy to get tempted, and he did not.
And the prime Angelian, and frankly, prime Terry Garr too. So it's kudos Jack Butler, and kudos to John Hughes for writing such an amazing character before he started directing. This
is very good, very good.
He was determined, 220, 221, whatever it takes.
Love that movie.
So I have something. And since we're closing in on Father's Day, I have an ask.
Yes.
My dad was up and down, pretty good dad, but he had his moments of not so good. But I got to say, greatest man I ever knew, and I miss him dearly. And happy Father's Day, Dad. I miss him so much, and I don't have any shots. But here's to you, Pop. Happy Father's Day. Paul Zamora, legend.
I only got to hang. I didn't know him well, but I got to see him in his element. Basically, the unofficial king of Oceanside, California. Got to go around drinking with that guy. Cheers, absolutely, to Mr. Paul Zamora.
Thank you, Eric.
Well, based on what I've heard, I regret I didn't get to know him. So happy Father's Day, Pablo.
And happy Father's Day to my dad, Mike. Again, much like Marty said, again, there's no dad's perfect. Even a television dad isn't perfect, or a movie dad isn't perfect. And love my dad, just doing everything he could for his family through the years, and just I'm blessed to still have him with me. So Mike Pravosnik, cheers.
Happy Father's Day, big Mike.
And happy Father's Day to my dad, Clark. Very, very happy to have him still with us as well.
Well, there you have it, folks. We got the some dads who are portraying real life dads. We have some fictional dads, but it's all about the love of fathers on Father's Day edition of All Over the Place. Once again, want to thank my co-host for running through this list, our Threefer together, and just again, check out BossSonics.com. Make sure you go to DZ Presents as well. Find out what's coming up on the concert landscape here in Arizona and beyond. Danny Zalesko, thanks for bringing us on as an unofficial Tag You sponsor. Awesome. And thank you, All Over the Place audience, for liking, sharing, subscribing, and we'll be back real soon here on All Over the Place. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
place where the fun sanity never ends.